John, I'm going to give everyone a few more minutes to join us.
Yeah, I'm just doing a tally now.
Yeah, I'm going through the attendance list. So it looks like we have quorum. It's exciting. Have we started the recording? Yes. Awesome. So welcome everyone. I will call this meeting to order at 10:34 a.m. I'll begin with the territorial acknowledgement. So pursuant to Federation Policy 50, Indigenous Engagement and Inclusivity, the Federation of Students acknowledges the University of Waterloo is on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. The University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldimand Tract, land promised to the Six Nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our first preliminary is the acceptance of resignations. So I received the following from Councillor Yates. I'll read the quick letter and then we will vote to accept his resignation. So hello, WUSA Council. I am Andrew Yates, a math counselor. I don't think I am able to do my job and represent students, so I am resigning. I apologize for the trouble and hope you guys keep up the good work. Andrew. So I will throw this statement into the chat. So be it resolved that council accepts the resignation of Andrew Yates as mathematics counselor effective immediately. So a reminder that WOW is against, SAD is abstaining, and a thumbs up is voting in favor. So the statement is now in the chat. Please go and vote. So I believe the motion passes. So we've accepted the resignation of Andrew Yates. It looks like Ina would like to speak. So Ina, I'm going to let you speak now.
Hi. So following Andrew's resignation, I would like to raise the motion that be it resolved that council ratifies Angela Wong Lin as temporary temporary math counselor for the remainder of spring 2020 term. And I'll be typing this up. I'm typing this up right now on the chat. So give me a quick minute.
Thank you, Ina.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Sorry, this is Angela. That's me who joined on my laptop. Sorry.
Can I get a seconder for this motion?
Unknown participant is now exiting.
So Victoria Shi seconds. So I'll read the motion again. Be it resolved that council ratify Angela Wong Lin as temporary replacement as the math counselor for the remainder of spring 2020 term. Sorry, I think we just need to make a quick change to this. Would we say for the remainder of, actually, I think this is fine. Reminder that in the chat, you can vote thumbs up is for, wow react is against, and sad face is abstention. So I think if individuals can't vote, what we'll do from now on is you'll need to have access to the council main chat. And what I'll do is I'll throw this into the council Teams itself instead of the meeting chat here to be able to vote. All right, motion passes. I welcome Angela to council. I will have John add you to the main council team, so you'll be able to vote for the remainder of this meeting. So moving on from the acceptance of resignations, we have approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments people would like to submit to the agenda?
Agenda or?
I'll note in the agenda that under approval of minutes, it states March 7th, 20,120, which should read June 7th, 2020. So I'll make that change. Was there anything else that needed to be changed in the agenda? Hearing none, I will assume the agenda and we can move on to the approval of minutes. So be it resolved that council approves the minutes of the June 7th, 2020 meeting as presented. Oh, Ina, you have.
Yes, so actually I do want to have a few corrections on the minutes. And so for one, I would like my official name to be included in the attendance list. So right now it says Wang Ina. I would like to include the Yiqian in it. And then the second part is I believe at the end, when we were talking about I asked a question regarding charities and the charity donations. The phrasing it's a bit confusing on the minutes. It should be if societies donate to charities, wait, I'm so sorry, give me a second. Wait, I'm pulling up right now. Minutes. I'm so sorry. Give me a. Okay, so it's on the announcements, the last page. Council President Wang asked that if society donate to a charity, then do they get tax returns? Vice President Guevara will find more details. Change the if to then do they.
So, would you be able to send this over to Mike? You can even just email it to exec@wusa.ca. Mike will be able to get it.
Okay.
And we can make those corrections on the minutes.
Yeah. Will do.
So I guess I'll go back. The changes that are being made is Ina would like her official name on the minutes from June 7th. And under announcements, we're changing the word if to then do. Were there any other changes that needed to be made to the June 7th minutes?
One thing,
Sorry, Ina, can you put a 1 in the chat?
Yes, I will put a 1 right there right now.
Okay. Ina, would you like to speak?
Yes, please, thank you. And after when Vice President Town moved our online proctoring discussion, it says be it resolved that council moved this discussion to new business item 4.2. It should be, the numbering should be new business item 5.1.
Okay.
And that I yield the remainder of my time back to the speaker.
Thank you, Ina. Steph, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I just noticed that the standing committees, commissions, or service reports section has a weird, it says Vice President Townast as the last name. And my name is also meshed with another word, so just a spacing issue if we can get that resolved.
I'm going to do a last call for any changes that need to be made to the June minutes, and then I'll move this to a vote. So hearing no more amendments to the minutes from June 7th.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Megan.
In my report, it says I shared a presentation about international student financial support. I think that should be a presentation about tuition. But I'm just trying to remember if we had a general order. Oh no, we had a general order about tuition. Pardon me. No,
I
I'm
believe you spoke on the emergency bursary, Megan.
The presentation, oh, sorry. Should I talk to something?
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
I think the presentation as a whole was about tuition, and a piece of it was international students, so I can definitely change that to say that the summary of the presentation was tuition.
Yeah, I guess just in my report, I didn't really present on international student financial support. We just talked about it.
Okay, now last call before we vote. So I'm not seeing anyone in the chat or anyone unmuting. So over in the council general teams, we will be voting be it resolved, council approve the minutes of June 7th, 2020 meeting as amended. Again, if you are in favor, you will thumbs up. If you are against, you will wow react. And if you are an abstention, you will sad face. Yes, Mike, good catch. Sorry, I got caught up in the amendments. Cannon seconds. A reminder that we're voting in the general council teams. I don't see a lot of people going over to vote. I'll give you 20 more seconds to cast your vote. All right, so that passes. We've approved the minutes for June 7th, and Mike will make those changes. I will also note that the approved minutes from, I believe, November to March of last year are available on the website for you to view if you're interested in some light reading. So moving on from the approval of minutes, we'll move to reports. We'll begin with the executive reports. So each executive will have about 2 minutes to give their report, and then there will be no longer than 10 minutes per executive for councillors to ask questions. So I believe I'll begin with my report. So this month, there were a lot of exciting things happening within WUSA. I guess anything in addition to what I've already submitted in a written report, we had this past week supported a group of students under the name Equity for Who have asked the university for a list of 7 advocacy asks demands that WUSA will be meeting with the provost to have a discussion about those advocacy asks and continue to work with students over this time to ensure that we have a safer, more equitable campus. The only other thing in addition to this is at the past in a recent conversation with the Committee of Presidents, we are working with accessibility services in addition to our original advocacy work with counseling services to again ask for more supports for BIPOC students at this time. I will also draw attention to the annual plan, which was approved by the Strategic and Long Range Plan Committee and shown to the board for discussion. So the annual plan is a guideline for the executive to kind of outline to our membership and yourselves all the work that we plan to accomplish this year. I'll be presenting updates to the annual plan once the executive and myself have created our operating plan for the annual plan to show you how it's going to be measured and provide additional information about the more day-to-day aspects of these more high-level goals. I guess at this point, I'll now open the floor for questions if you have any questions about my report or the annual plan itself. So seeing no questions from my written, oral, or the annual plan, I will move on to the Vice President Operations and Finance. Alana, would you give your report?
Yeah, sure. A lot has happened this week, and there have been some changes in the GRT Fall UPass item under my report. So as of last Sunday, when I submitted this, this was the likely direction that we were heading in, but it came out this week that GRT / the region is not open to this option. So our 2 options would have been either to suspend it and no one would have it, or to charge it and then about 60% or more of our students would have to pay the fee even though they won't be using it. So I am making a call here unless anybody has anything to say about it or anybody has any other ideas where we will suspend the UPass for the fall term, and I am going to work with GRT and Turnkey to put in a system behind Turnkey where students can buy the passes and the cards and everything that they would need to use the bus for the fall term. Other than that, the bomber space stays the same, and I am working on the SLC PAC fee item with GSA right now, and the next August meeting, I will bring a motion to the floor to get student input on that SLC PAC item. Does anybody have any questions?
Cannon, would you like to speak?
Alana, I was just wondering how this is like. So, would the students still be able to get any kind of cheaper GRT option, or is just if they want to pass, they'll just have to buy the $300 pass?
You would have to buy the $300 pass. My intention is to just do like the calculations, because if you buy their card and you upload each route or each time you ride costs, I believe it's like $286 or something. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. As opposed to the $375. So I'm going to be working with Mike on like certain calculations in terms of like, if you buy the pass, this is how many times you would have to ride for it to make sense. If you're not going to use it that often, it would make more sense to just buy, just like upload a certain cash amount onto the card and use it every time you ride, kind of thing. But yeah, no, we didn't have very much ammunition in terms of the agreement that was signed and the fact that Laurier has suspended their UPass, and other schools like like Hamilton have opted, like McMaster and whatnot, have opted to also suspend their UPass. So
Cannon, direct response, and then Ina.
Alana, I was wondering, like, would WUSA be able to subsidize any passes with our UPass reserve fund for this?
I mean, like, the possibility is there. Like, do you mean with like the UPass reserve?
Yep.
I can definitely look into that. The possibilities there.
Okay, that'll be great. Can you look into that by the next council meeting and let us know?
Megan, are you raising your hand because you'd like to be added to the speaking order?
Yeah, just quickly, that decision would be up to the board.
Thanks for the clarification, Megan. I'll now go back to the speaking list. Ina, would you like to speak?
Yes, please. Thank you. So I have two questions. One is regarding about the GRT. So what, and like I don't understand. I don't really understand the background. So why can WUSA like still set the UPass fee for students and then ask them to withdraw, or that's no longer on the table? And then my second question is, have you had, and do you have any response back to my question about charity donations from last council meeting?
I don't have the charity donation thing in front of me. I did talk to Suzanne about it. Can you send me an email so that I can send you a response to that? Just like as a reminder, because I unfortunately neglected to include that in my plans for this meeting today. And your question about GRT, I don't, can you repeat it? I don't really.
Oh yeah, so from my understanding before is that students can withdraw, can opt out, or can, wait, sorry, I might be wrong, but no student never had option. Okay, never mind, I withdraw my questions. My brain is just dead.
Okay. Thank you, Ina. Stephanie?
Yeah, so just wanted to provide a correction with the numbers that you were mentioning. So for so you cited $300 for the pass otherwise, but that's like the college student one, and that's because Conestoga College negotiated with GRT. So like assuming we don't get any special deal or something, it would be $90 a month. So it would come around to $360 versus the low 90 that the UPass usually is. Another thing I'd like to add for your consideration, I guess, like in your, or I guess the board's like decision on how to proceed is that like UPass generally carries over to the following term if the individual is between academic terms, such as like when they're on co-op. So in those cases, technically, the UPass is actually lasting for quite a bit longer. And I'm wondering if the people who opted into the UPass during spring term, if they would continue to have service in the fall term.
That question about it carrying over is on a list of things to discuss with Gethin next week, actually.
It looks like Megan also has a direct response. Megan, is this direct to Stephanie?
Yeah.
Perfect. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Steph, that the reason for kind of like buying single fares as opposed to buying a pass is because since students aren't traveling to campus every day, maybe they're going to campus once a week, maybe they're doing groceries once a week, their like costs for those single fares are probably going to come out to less than $90 per month. So the most cost effective way for students to travel in most cases is gonna be just to buy those fares. And then the other thing I was going to say was in response, it was actually in response to Ina's question. So I don't know if you want me to do that now or later.
I'm going to say go ahead, Megan, and then I'll move to Cannon and Steph's direct response.
Great. Okay. Ina, you were correct. So typically how the process works is everyone is required to pay the UPass. And then if they provide us with proof that they are not in the region and therefore can't use the GRT, they can get that fee refunded. The reason why we can't do that for the fall term is because roughly half, we're expecting anyway, roughly half of our students to be outside of the region, and WUSA and GRT simply don't have the administrative capacity to issue that many refunds. So we're kind of stuck with not administering the fee for that reason.
So we'll move to the next direct response. Cannon.
This is kind of a direct responsibility to Megan and Alana. Something to consider is a lot of students work part-time during the school terms and they rely on the UPass to go to their jobs. So this is going to be a huge burden on them. Just a huge issue for those people.
We are aware of that, which is why we are doing our very best to make it as easy as possible for students to have access to using the bus and putting that system in behind Turnkey.
but that'll be more costlier.
I'm not really sure what you would have liked me to do in the meetings with GRT. They said no for everything that we have asked for. So it's not that I didn't try, and it's not that I didn't ask. It's that the region is being as conservative as they can be because the government is not providing much funding or support for municipalities and transit systems, etc. So
I totally understand, Alana. Like, it's like a difficult situation to be in. So I would just ask the executives and also the chair of the board to consider if WUSA can subsidize this in the future.
So I'm moving on to Stephanie, direct response.
Yeah, direct response to Megan's direct response to me. Yeah, no, I just wanted to mention that the reason why I mentioned the 360 number was just to make sure that council and everyone else viewing like has a sense that like in order to get the equivalent service that would have been provided if you had the UPass, it would be roughly that amount. Certainly there are other ways for students to access public transit. So yeah.
I will mention now that the 10 minutes for questions is up. If there are other questions, I ask you send Alana an email. I will be moving on to the report of the Vice President of Education, Megan Town.
Awesome. I don't think that I have anything to add in addition to my written report. I would say there's a couple things that have come up with UCREW since then, which is that we're working on a letter to ask for the extension of CESB as well as some of the other student supporting programs. In response to Cannon's question at last council, we have kind of nixed that advocacy point about changing the tax credits to grants, and we're working on kind of other avenues, including asks for international students. And both UCREW and WUSA are also working on a budget submission for the federal government, which will be closing in the coming weeks. And yeah, I welcome any questions.
We'll start with Ina.
So on your written report, you mentioned that EAC has begun reviewing policy 33. I was just wondering where in the progress is that revision? Is it and will a new draft be approved within the next few months or next 2 to 3 months?
Sure. So Matt Garrett's presented a draft of Policy 33 to EAC at our most recent meeting, and that was circulated to the mailing list for comments. So I believe we're accepting comments until this Thursday, the 16th. If you need a longer amount of time to provide comments, just let me know. And then we are looking to have that draft approved at EAC for our meeting at the end of July, with the hope of bringing it to council for a first reading in August. So if council felt strongly about passing that policy quickly, council could choose to pass that policy by a 2/3 majority at the August council meeting, rather than hearing it for a first reading and sending it back to PPC.
Ina, direct response.
I don't know where the other societies are on this, but I think due to just recent events, and can we extend the comment just a bit longer so that the respective vice president academic / education can share it with their respective society councils for more comments, just because of recent events.
Sure. Ina, could you chat with Alan and let me know when he'll have those comments in by?
Of course. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Are there any additional questions for the Vice President Education? Okay, seeing no more questions for the Vice President Education, I will move on to the report of the Vice President Student Life. Nada, how's your internet?
Hello, I heard that. Can you hear me well?
You're great.
Okay, great. So, hi, Council. So as you might have noticed, there was no written report on my side that was submitted to Council that will be sent to all of you in a follow-up email. So a bunch of things that I worked on this month and would be an update for all council members. So I've met with Diana Perry, the Associate Vice President, Human Rights, Equity and Inclusion. I met with her this month, and this was part of an agreement that we had with her at the beginning of the month, where moving forward, the Vice President Student Life and AVP HREI will be having monthly meetings just to touch base on what's happening and to keep clear communication between the HREI office in WUSA. Another thing is that the trans and racialized survey results have been compiled and put into a report. Unfortunately, I am not ready yet to put those report out to council and the executive, so I'll have that ready and good to go in the next few weeks. And so my AVP Equity and I are going to be moving into phase 2 of this process, where we will be organizing focus groups for students who have participated and are willing to participate in the focus groups to kind of gather more specific, I guess, results and to ask more detailed questions as follow-up. In terms of my committees, the Campus Life Advisory Committee is undergoing a review of the operations of our student-led services, and so we've obtained a list based on priority from the services manager, and so we'll be going through that list and making sure that we are able to evaluate our services and make sure that they're functioning up to what is expected. And including that, we're also in that committee, we're also examining the implementation of the service coordinator pay and what that would mean, from changing the position of service coordinators from volunteers to part-time staff. And so we'll be exploring some guidelines that will ensure that this process goes smoothly as possible. So that's, I think I covered most, if not everything, that I've been up to. Again, I will be attaching, or I'll be asking either Debbie Speaker or Abby to send a follow-up email to all of you with a written report that will have more information if you would like to refer to a paper document. And I will now accept questions.
So we'll begin with Cannon.
Nat, I was just following up from last council meeting where I asked a question if the university would be willing to step in and pay the fixed cost for orientation. You said you'll be following up on that. Were you able to do that?
Yeah, I was going to refer that question to you, Abby, because you've been in contact with Chris Reed.
Yeah, so Cannon, I can respond to this. That decision won't be made until the next meeting of the orientation steering committee, which is yet to be determined because we've just completed the confirmation of the fall 2020 plan for orientation. That'll be something that I'll be working on in the next few weeks, and I can, if you'd like, provide an update to council. But I'm sure you as an orientation team member will have the information before the next council meeting.
Second question.
Cannon, if you have another question, I'm going to let
someone else.
John ask a question, and then I'll come back to you. So, John, go ahead.
Hi, yes. Has our support of a statement calling for the removal of Diana Perry impacted our working relationship with UWHREI?
As far as I know, it has not. So I'm still in contact with the equity office because there have been a couple of things that I'm just following up on with the equity office. And we are also in close contact with the Sexual Violence Prevention and Response Office because of the few sexual assault allegations that has been brought to the attention of WUSA. So as far as I know, that working relationship is still in effect. And to also follow up on our support of the letter that called for a few asks from students, including the removal, or yeah, I guess including the removal of Diana Perry from the role of AVP-HREI. We as in WUSA, will be having a meeting with the Office of the Provost to further discuss our support of the letter and bring forward the asks of that student group.
Thank you, Nada. Cannon, go ahead.
Nada, in your report, you mentioned that CLAC is working on evaluating the services. So is it more about if they are serving their core, I guess, core mandate, or is more about how many people are using those services and what kind of services are they using in those services?
Yes, great question. So part of what CLAC does naturally is it undergoes, I guess, an annual review / evaluation of all the services. And so this particular evaluation will focus on whether the service is meeting its mandate or not. But because we're also in a very interesting time, we'll kind of be having an overall evaluation of everything. But I would say that it would be more focused towards whether the services are meeting their mandates or not, because to my knowledge, that hasn't been done in a long time because CLAC hasn't been or hadn't met in such a long time before the start of the fiscal year 2020.
Thank you, Nada. Nick, would you like to speak?
Yeah, this is just oh, can you hear me well?
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay. All right, awesome. I haven't used this before, so just making sure. Do you mind if I ask just a brief explanation of the situation surrounding Diana Perry? I don't think I'm very familiar with that.
Yes, for sure. So are you asking in regards to the letter that was put out that WUSA supported?
Yeah, sure. That'd be a good place.
Okay, so WUSA was approached by the group that Abby briefly discussed called Equity for Who. As far as we know, we don't know who's behind that or who the particular individuals are because they remain anonymous. And so within that letter, there were a few asks which included either the resignation or removal of Diana Perry, who is the current Associate Vice President of Human Rights and Equity and Inclusion, on the grounds of not being able to fulfill the needs of that role and not being able to fully support students being in that role. And as we know, that that role was created fairly recently. I would say like I don't know, 3 years ago. I might be wrong though, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But the reason why that role was created was because there was a need to support students from all areas that are regarding equity. And so as it stands now, students feel like Diana Perry isn't fulfilling the duties of the role. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess, a high level overview of that situation.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thanks very much.
No problem.
Thank you, Nada, for the explanation. I will do like a final call for questions. We have about 4 minutes left for questions before we move on. All right, seeing nothing in the chat and no one unmuting or no hands up, I will move on to the report of the Board of Directors. So Ben will have 2 minutes to speak, and then again, 10 minutes of questions.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good, Ben.
Okay. So quick report here. In June, board met twice. At our regular meeting, we heard a proposal from staff about WUSA wellness packages, which are going to be sent out to students while we're working away from home. And then later in June, we had a special meeting where we approved funding from our reserve fund investment accounts to fund the proposal. And we also discussed furniture costs in the SLC PAC expansion. In July, we've had one meeting where we discussed the annual plan, as council will do later today. And our regular meeting for July is this Tuesday. All directors were present at the June meetings and July meetings so far, except for Councillor Director Hunt, who was excused from the 19 June 2020 meeting. That's it for me. So any questions?
Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi, I noticed that in the report you mentioned that GSA had also had like decision-making power in that. I was wondering if like what the Graduate Student Association's relationship with the expansion would be. Like, are they having more dedicated space or whatnot, or like what's the current relationship there?
Admittedly, I am not an expert on this, but my understanding is that there will be certain spaces within the new expansion that are dedicated to graduate students. And I believe that has to do with an agreement that was signed when the SLC PAC expansion was, you know, like they decided to go ahead with it. So I think it has to do with like I think they'll have office space in the new SLC PAC. I'm not sure if that's the kind of detail that you're looking for, and I don't think I could answer with much more confidence about anything. Is that a good answer?
No worries. I can just look into it myself. Thanks.
Steph, I'll also note, Alana, I believe you meant direct response.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I'll let you speak, but I'll also say, Steph, or if any counselors have any questions, you can reach out to myself or Alana. We're working on the SLC PAC project, and we're more than happy to provide you with additional information. But Alana, I'll let you speak now.
Yeah, so the SLC PAC expansion has spaces for us, WUSA, for GSA, and for athletics, and it's divvied up, and we have a few spaces, as Seneca had mentioned in past council meetings, that we have control of, and we get to decide what goes into those spaces. And GSA has some offices and a lot of like the student spaces just for like general use are also open to the GSA. and they are also going to be paying the SLC pack expansion fee once it starts being charged.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you, Ben. Are there any more questions for the chair of the board? Seeing no more questions in the chat and no hands raised, we're going to move on to representative reports, beginning with the Applied Health Science Caucus. Maria, are you here?
I am here. So from the Applied Health Sciences Caucus, this term we're looking into new ways, not this term, sorry, this month we went looking for new ways to reach our constituents, as it is currently impossible to obviously hold meetings or office hours of any kind. So we're currently looking at ways to use social media platforms to create kind of reports after each meeting to let students know what's been going on with WUSA, since even though the reports are available online and the minutes are available online for everybody to see, we found that it is very rare that students actually look at these. And second, a slightly kind of confusing news, our faculty is looking at a name change at the current moment. So we are looking for moving from the Faculty of Applied Health Sciences to the Faculty of Health, simply because the Health Studies program is currently being changed to the Health Science program, and so the faculty name would become confusing.
Thank you, Marie. Are there any questions for the Applied Health Science Caucus? I don't see any. Oh, Stephanie.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, I was wondering if the name changed, would you guys no longer be Aussies anymore?
So that is right now the biggest drawback that people are seeing. There was a survey sent out by faculty about 2 weeks ago to get feedback on this name change. A lot of people are opposed to it, from what I understand, and from my own personal acquaintances. However, we won't have a final answer on it later. I hope that still means we're Aussies, but if not, I don't know what it's going to change to.
You should just keep it as a historic artifact, but thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Marie. I don't see any more questions for the Applied Health Science Caucus, so I will move on to Arts. Is there a representative from Arts who would like to give an oral report?
Hi. So I can give an update, but I don't really think we have much to update on. So if there's anyone else that would like to chime in, I know that we're still working on getting the data for a survey that we did out about course deliveries in the fall, but I think that's about it.
Thank you, Rebecca. Was there anyone else from the Arts Caucus who wanted to provide any additional information, or are there any questions for the Arts Caucus? Great, seeing none, we'll move on to the Engineering Caucus. Is there a representative ready to give a report?
Hi there, Councillor Yang here. Yeah, so not much to report. We had a few NSLOC council meetings in the meantime. Some of our governing documents have been on their way to being updated again. Besides that, we're just focusing on transitioning to online events and online courses and making sure we can support students through this time. So, yeah. If anyone else has anything else to add, feel free.
I believe Ellen's not here. Delaney, is there anything you want to add from NSOC?
Not really. We're sort of waiting for more information, but the spring terms are sort of in the wrap-up mode. I can give some update on BSOC since Ellen's not here. BSOC elected a new set of executive, which is super exciting. So their first on-term will be in winter 21. Other than that, ASOC's in the planning stage, and we're getting excited to welcome the first years.
Thank you, Delaney, and I just want to second the congrats on a fun engineering day. The posts looked amazing.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the engineering caucus? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the report of the Environment Caucus.
Hi. So the Faculty of Environment has, or the Environment Caucus has met with the Dean of the Faculty of Environment in terms of talking about support for BIPOC students. As well, there was, so prior to the meeting, there was a meeting with a few Black students in environment who were gracious enough to be willing to talk to us just like about their experience and ways that they think that the Faculty of Environment can be more anti-racist. And so at the meeting with the dean, the call for accessibility services to provide more support for Black students facing trauma came up. And I will also be having a meeting with someone from Accessibility Services and also Gina Hickman from Equity to discuss this. And then further down the line, they said that a meeting with more student leaders would be possible. In addition to this, we are currently, so some of our programs have already started like a student task force to make academic changes to our curricula. These are the Environment Resources and Sustainability program and also planning. And they are looking at ways to diversify and include more talk about racial injustice and environmentalism in our curricula. And then also we are having a succulent workshop, a virtual one. So succulent kits are going to be sent out to students who signed up for it in time. So we're looking forward to that. I think that's it. Does anyone else want to chime in? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Are there any questions for the Environment Caucus? Again, seeing none, we will move over to the Mathematics Caucus.
Oh, and yes, so I'll start with some updates from MathTalk. MathTalk will be having our as mentioned in my written report, MathTalk will be having our general meeting in 2 weeks from now. Oh, and information can be found on our social media posts relating to that. And something happened, like there's quite a few things happened this week, starting with the sexual allegation towards one of our own students. And so I have spoken with our dean's representative I was able to speak with Amanda Cook and Abby and Megan about that matter, as well as I've spoken with the dean's representative. Unfortunately, due to legality and policy issues, the faculty cannot do anything following up, which is not to anybody's satisfaction. However, I would just like to, on behalf of MathTalk, state that we are here to support all of our constituents. However, we do not tolerate and we condemn any discriminatory or racist or assaulting behaviors of any sort from and to our students. And then similarly, we had a recent council meeting that was last Friday, where we had a further discussion about online proctoring, and then, so if I may I advise, I'm gonna raise a motion onto the general chat. Give me a second. Which states, so, whereas the University of, so it's on the general chat right now. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Well, I'm gonna need a.
Oh yes, yep. So don't vote on it. That's just me posting it on here for information for now. And it's basically, we passed a motion along those lines to ask university to release the assessment they did on online proctoring software. This is like the post I did on the general chat is not for voting yet.
So Ina's brought forward a motion, and Cannon has seconded the motion. I'll read it so everyone I can open it up for discussion. And then Ina, if you have Ina and Cannon, I'll let you speak to it. So whereas the University of Waterloo has failed to be transparent with students and student societies about their implementation of online proctoring, whereas the university has not released any of the assessments allegedly supporting the use of online proctoring, whereas as the July MathSoc Council meeting, MathSoc is against the university's lack of transparency regarding online proctoring, calls from the university to release mentioned assessments. Be it resolved, Students' Council requests the Vice President of Education to call on the university to release all assessments of online proctoring software. So, Ina, I'll let you speak to this, and then Cannon, and then I'll open the floor for questions.
If I may, I would like to, the student rep that has brought this up, Vincent, is on the meeting. May I yield my time to him?
Yes, you may. Vincent, would you like to speak?
Sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so the reason I put forward this motion is because in my experience trying to ask CEL to release the information about the assessments they conducted, they eventually just stopped, responding to inquiries, and they just said, oh, we need to talk with our senior people, and then they just stopped answering questions. I don't think that's acceptable. My understanding of Ontario privacy law is that institutions have a legal obligation to work with individuals to address privacy complaints. And I am concerned that the university's lack of transparency here is an abdication of that legal duty, which is why I put forward a motion in MathSoc to formally call on the university to have the Mathematics Society formally call on the university to release these documents. I'm also concerned that the assessments weren't properly conducted, for instance, not consulting with the Equity Office, among other issues. So I'd like to, and I think that if the university, since the university is currently allowing students to opt out, I think that they should inform students of all of the risks of using online proctoring so that students are able to make an informed decision. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Vincent. Cannon, would you like to speak to this? And then I'll move to some questions. So Cannon doesn't want to speak. Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question about the second whereas statement. Is that referring to the privacy and security assessments?
I think I can answer this since I put forward the motion at the MathSoc meeting.
Go ahead.
It's all assessments that were conducted, including privacy assessments, risk assessments, security assessments, any form of assessment that they conducted on the software. The wording is like that because it's meant to include all assessments of the software.
Okay, just for clarity, could we amend the second whereas and the be it resolved that to say the university has not released any of the assessments, comma, including privacy and security reviews, comma, allegedly supporting the use of online proctoring. And then similarly, be it resolved, Students' Council requests the Vice President Education to call on the university to release all assessments, comma, including privacy and security reviews, comma, of online proctoring software.
Ina has determined that's a friendly amendment. Are there any other questions about this motion before we bring it to a vote in the general council teams? Edward has a question. Go ahead, Edward.
Yeah, I just like to say that I have emailed Kathy Winter, who is the privacy officer at the University of Waterloo, and from the response I received, at least, it seemed like their intention is to publish it once the decisions have been made. So I think it might just be applying pressure by make sure that it gets done in a timely manner is the important part here. Not that it gets released at all, but that it's happening in a timely manner.
Vincent, I'll allow you to directly respond, and then Cannon.
I think the decisions already have been made as the software has already been used for midterms. So if they're holding off until the decision is finalized, then that would imply they've used the software before approving it. And my understanding is they have approved it and they've used the software and have not released these assessments to students so that students are informed of the risks before using the software. Yeah. And yes, Kathy did say a similar thing to me. I believe her wording was she expects that CEL would do that. But as I mentioned, CEL's lack of cooperation gives me little faith to believe that they will, which is unfortunate, really.
Thank you, Vincent. Last call for any questions or comments before I move this to a vote. Okay, so seeing none, I'll read over the statement again as amended. Whereas the University of Waterloo has failed to be transparent with students and student societies about their implementation of online proctoring, and whereas the university has not released any of the assessments, including privacy and security reviews, allegedly supporting the use of online proctoring, whereas as of the July MassSoc Council meeting, MassSoc is against the university's lack of transparency regarding online proctoring calls for university to release mentioned assessments. Be it resolved that Student Council requests the Vice President of Education to call on the university to release all assessments, including privacy and security reviews of online proctoring software. I'll remind councillors again that if you are in favor, you will thumbs up. If you are against, you will wow react. And if you are in abstention, you will sad face. Thank you for the reminder, Ina. If you would like your vote noted, please reply to the message, say noted, and then state what you voted. Councillors, if you would like to be noted in favor, please comment so under the motion itself. That way it's easier for us to go back to reference for the minutes.
There's also people voting in the.
And also a reminder, Ina's post in the meeting chat here was so everyone could review the statement. The actual vote is happening in the general council teams, as all votes happen in the general council teams. All right, thank you, councillors. The motion passes with Ina, Catherine, Matthew, Cannon, and Marie noted in favor with 3 abstentions. I'll now allow Ina to continue her report, but also noting that Ina, you will have 1 more minute.
Yes. And so on the brighter side, I was able to meet up with the new dean of math, and I'm not gonna say his name because I'm gonna butcher his last name. And we were able to discuss about fall 2020 planning, considering that we have 28,000 as of now incoming students. 2,800.
Not 1,000.
Oh, 2,800, sorry, 2,800. And then additionally, we have just appointed, acclaimed our newest president-elect. Can everybody say congratulations to Matthew Schwartz as the fall 2020 Math Talk president? And yeah, and then I'll be meeting with him on transitioning for the upcoming term.
Thank you, Ina. I'll now open it up for any questions for the mathematics caucus. All right, seeing no questions for the mathematics caucus, we'll move on to the science caucus. Are there any representatives from the Science Caucus on the line?
Seconder is driving, I believe, and Nick and Sumaya should be here.
Yeah, yes, I'm part of the Science Caucus. Sorry about that.
Would you like to give a representative report?
Normally I would, and I would be very happy to do so. However, this is my first meeting. Unfortunately, I missed the last 2, so I'm not very familiar with council procedure. Not 100%.
Thank you for your honesty, Nick. You're more than welcome to connect with me offline and we can go over, I guess still online, just not on the council meeting, to go over a few things that you've missed. Just send me an email and we can set up a time to chat.
Perfect. I did talk to the speaker before about, and I read over the general council procedures. But yeah, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. I'll also say I am the speaker, so yeah, I know we've chatted.
Never mind. Sorry.
But I'm more than happy to set up a face-to-face meeting so we can talk about things at length.
All righty, fantastic. Sorry about that mix-up.
That's okay. It gets confusing because John, the deputy speaker, is using the speaker account.
Yeah, that's what messed me up when I saw that.
Anyways, are there any other members of the Science Caucus who would like to deliver a report before we move on? Oh, would you like me to read this out loud? Samaya? Yeah, sure. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm sorry your network connection isn't doing very well today. I definitely know that feeling. So the Science Caucus has had a few board of directors meetings so far, but there are no updates that they're aware of at this time. Thank you for that update. I would open the floor for questions for the Science Caucus, if anyone is able to take questions. If not, we can move on to the report of the Cambridge campus. Seeing no questions in the chat, I'll move on to the report of the Cambridge campus. Is there a representative here today? Last call for the Cambridge campus representative report. Thank you, John. I'll move on to the report of Kitchener campus.
Hi, everyone. I submitted a written report and I don't have anything additional to add on to it at this time.
Thank you, Amanda. I was really excited to see your written report. Are there any questions arising from Amanda's written report? Great, seeing none, I'll move on to the report of the Stratford campus.
Hi there. There isn't anything major to report. We're just looking for new ways to reach out to constituents and working regularly with a lot of the professors to kind of see like how to make online learning the best for like all the students and how to communicate with everyone more effectively. And we're also coming up with new ideas on how we can connect with incoming first years and connect them with a lot of the upper years to give them more support. That's it.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for the Stratford campus? Seeing none, we'll move on to the report of St. Jerome's. Are there any St. Jerome's counselors or a representative from SJUSU here? Okay, seeing none. The report of Renison University College. Oh, wait, Chanel is here. Would you like to give a report, Chanel? But your mic is not working. Chanel, would you like to type up something quick, maybe something point form, or you're gonna call back? Okay. I'll move on to Renison's report and then I'll come back to St. Jerome's. Is there a representative from Renison here?
I'm here. So at the board of the directors meeting at the end of June, they are still unsure. Like, there's going to be a residence plan for Renison, a new one, but it's right now because of COVID and how things have affected finances at Renison. They're unsure if they're going to go through with it right away or they're going to put it off for a couple more months until the budget balances out.
Thank you, Vicky, for that update. I don't know if Chanel is back on the line, but I'll open up the floor for questions for Renison University College before we move back to the report of St. Jerome's. Are there any questions for Renison? Okay, seeing none. Chanel, would you like to try out your microphone again?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I'm just going to provide a follow-up report from the last meeting. So instead of 2 paid candidates to be on St. Jerome's EDI working group, we have chosen 3 candidates as we felt 2 were inefficient to probably represent students. The 3 candidates are Leslie Moss, Eve Astofoli, I'm probably saying that wrong, and Jenny Fu. If you would like to see more or know more about these candidates, you can check St. Jerome's Instagram, which is SJU Students Union. And if you would need any more information on the candidates, please feel free to ask me.
Thank you, Chanel, for that update. Are there any questions for the St. Jerome's caucus? Okay, seeing none, thank you everyone for your reports. We'll move on to the Officers of Council report. I'll begin. I recently met with our marketing team to go over some of the notes that you all had for increased council engagement for the upcoming terms. I will be putting together an email with some of the initiatives that will be test driving in the fall term. And please, when I send out those calls, respond to those emails if you're interested in partaking. So for example, something we might be doing in the fall is if you've submitted a general order or anything to the council agenda, you might have an opportunity to write a small article about the process and all of that for our website to get people excited and maybe have some more awareness of submitting or attending our council meetings to listen in. I'll also remind councillors that if you are going to be absent or if you have any questions regarding council, please send an email to speaker@wusa.ca and CC me, so the pres@wusa email, just so that I can keep some of the emails separate and all in one place. And that John is also aware of some of the questions that you are asking too. I will also say that I was really excited to see all of the people who submitted caucus reports, so keep up the good work. The new caucus report template is in Teams, so if you have any questions about those reports, feel free to send me an email, and I'm more than happy to help you format it or really answer any questions you have about what you think should be in your caucus reports. Are there any questions about my speaker report? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to the report of the Deputy Speaker. John, would you like to speak?
Hi, yes. It seems that my computer is playing the fool. So if you heard me mumbling earlier, it was because my mic was refusing to turn off, and just now it wasn't turning on. So anyway, that's great. My report. There is 1 councillor eligible for removal at this time, Nick Dawson. He has already spoken at this meeting. Also, if Iman Fatima, Janeet Singh, Manasuri, Mukesh Parmar, Tahir Remanji or Neeks Roxas are present, please let me know. I have not seen you in the participants log. Let me know if you're here so I can mark you as attended.
Thank you, John. Are there any questions for the Deputy Speaker? Nick, go ahead, and then Cannon.
Hi, so just really quick, this is more of a I guess, a statement. So for me personally, I wasn't 100% familiar with the fact that my term would be starting in the spring. I thought it would be starting in the fall, which is why I missed the first 2 meetings. So I don't know if that might be similar with the people who aren't here, right? Because I think some of the names that were listed before are members of the Science Caucus as well. So I'm not exactly sure. Like, they might be experiencing the same thing, right? Just as a heads up, it might not be like intentional, right?
Thank you, Nick. Cannon, I'm going to allow John to directly respond, and then you can ask your question.
Yeah, everybody else has either attended a meeting or have asked to be excused from a previous meeting. So they are aware that we are having a meeting today, or rather they should be aware.
Oh, I see. Sorry about that then. Never mind.
No worries, Nick. Cannon, would you like to speak?
John, I was wondering, with the removal of Andrew, did any of the committee seats become empty now?
I'm checking that now.
I believe Andrew is on the Policies and Procedures Committee, so I will fill that seat at the August meeting. But John, can you confirm that that's the only committee?
PPC and ERC.
Cool. So we will fill those at the August meeting. Are there any additional questions for the deputy speaker? Great. Hearing none, I'll move on to the report of the secretary, Alana.
Hi. Nothing new to report besides my apologies for not having the first council meeting minutes of this term ready yet. I have had a stern speaking to myself, and that will be ready for the next council meeting.
Thank you, Alana. Are there any questions for the secretary? Hearing none, I'll move on to the standing committees or commissioner reports. I believe the report we're hearing today is from the Education Advisory Committee. So Megan, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah. Before we started on the 2 items that are submitted under the report, I actually wanted to ask council just a quick question. So there's another policy that EAC is going to be looking at, which is policy 8, request for minutes of university bodies. And the relevant section of this report, of that policy, is be it resolved that Students' Council request complete minutes, save business dealings with confidential matters from each of the existing faculty council, the Senate, the Board of Governors, and any president's advisory councils which may be in place or created. This policy was last updated in 2014, and I think since then, most of the minutes of university bodies are available online. So I was wondering if council felt strongly that this policy needs to continue to exist. Otherwise, I would probably bring it to be rescinded at a future meeting.
Would anybody like to make any comments about Megan's proposal to, at a future meeting, rescind policy 8? I'm not seeing any questions or comments. Megan, are you just going to bring this up at another meeting to have it rescinded?
Yeah, I'll let people kind of think about it, and I'll bring it at the August meeting to rescind that meeting, and we can have a discussion about it then if anyone has any further comments.
Thank you, Megan. I might also ask for a small blurb to remind everyone to review the policy and in our follow-up email this afternoon.
Sure, that sounds good.
Great.
So the other two policies which are attached to the agenda are here for first reading at council. So what that means is it's an opportunity for everyone at council to review the policy and give any comments if there's any clerical changes or any content changes that council is interested in seeing. The policy would then be referred either to PPC or to EAC to make those changes, and then it would return to council at the August meeting for approval. So I hope that everyone has had a chance to look at the policies. Abby, I don't have the agenda in front of me. Which one is first on the list?
First one on the list is policy 34, differential and relative grading.
Okay, great. So does anyone have any comments on differential and relative grading policy? Edward, go ahead.
Hi, I just had my first question is regarding point 2b, that differential grading applied to syllabus change during term can lead to adverse outcomes such as preferencing a student with a smaller number of strong assessments over those with a more consistent but slightly lower performance on all assessments.
Mm-hmm.
So my concern with this point is that we seem to be implying a pedagogical reasoning that one is better than the other in this example. I don't think that's the intent, and I feel like it could be rewarded to not imply that.
Sorry, Edward, which section was that?
2b in the policy for policy 34. My reasoning being that whether or not which of those two scenarios should be given a higher mark is more of a pedagogical principle that should be left up to the instructor. I don't think we should imply that in policy.
Yeah, we did have that discussion at EAC, and I think we landed on language that meant that we wouldn't want to see changes midway through the semester, but I'm going to review that and make sure that it's clear.
Thank you.
Stephanie has a direct response, and then Cannon.
Sorry.
You're unmuted.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, so just to provide a little bit of context of like what we were told regarding, sorry, I can move this. So the general idea behind seeing that as perhaps unfair was given that like if it changes halfway through a semester, you have plenty of courses, like if you don't know in advance to writing a midterm that a midterm is going to be dropped, and there's like several midterms, you might spend an immense amount of time working towards that thing, and it can negatively affect your other subjects and whatnot. So knowing ahead of time is kind of more of the important aspect, and why it's seen kind of as unfair here.
Okay, Edward, direct response, and then Cannon.
Okay, yeah, I do agree with the main principle. I'm just saying that the example given is debatable and makes kind of detracts from the main point that syllabus changes during the term is the main issue here.
Okay, thank you, Edward. I've written that down.
Thank you, Edward and Stephanie. I'll now move on to Cannon.
Megan, I could be wrong, but isn't there already university policy that states that if a course outline is going to be changed midway through the term, it needs also have student approval for that?
Yes. And I have seen syllabuses change partway through the term without student approval. So I think that you raise a good point that it's already within university policy. I don't think it's necessarily harmful to state as like a belief or concern statement that we feel a certain way.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And if you know that this has happened without student consent, then could RUSA look into maybe doing a small marketing campaign about this in future?
Yeah, and I think that it leads into kind of some of the other recommendations that are like, if multiple marking schemes are used, the students shall be assessed using that which returns the highest mark, or that the University of Waterloo should obligate a preliminary marking scheme to be included in each course outline. So that's a good point.
Thank you.
So going back to the speaking order, I have Stephanie and then Edward.
Hi, Megan. Would we be able to add to the policy basically a line mentioning the fact that this rule currently exists, although it is not enforced that often, or that there are barriers to enforcement? Because I feel like in terms of advocating for the policy with it being effective, it's kind of important that we communicate that we understand the contextual landscape we're working in, because it's very easy for the university to be like, well, that already exists, and we're not necessarily sure if future councils are going to be aware of the fact that we totally knew that thing as we were writing it. So it might just be more useful to just include that as as a point.
Sure. Yeah, I've made a note of that.
Edward will be the last person to make a comment orally here at council. Megan, are you accepting any email comments as well?
Yep.
Okay, great. I just want to be mindful of time, that you have 4 minutes left. So I want to give you enough time to review policy 70. So Edward, last one on this point, and then send Megan emails, and then we'll move on to policy 70.
Okay, this is my last point anyways. So my question is, point 3F, I just want some explanation of that because it seems to conflict a little bit with 3D. So that is, if a new marking scheme is agreed to without changes in which assessments are conducted, a student may retain a right to be marked under the old marking scheme, versus all students having to consent to having the marking scheme changed. And I'm also confused as to what counts underneath a marking scheme, because it seems to imply that it includes how assessments are done versus how assessments are weighted.
So what I would say is a marking scheme typically refers to how assessments are weighted, and we define that as the determination and representation of which assessments in the course contribute to the final grade and in which proportion. I would say that those 2 points don't conflict. It's saying if there's a situation where it could conceivably lead to a student having a lower grade, it would require unanimous consent. And then a student should not be precluded from voting for a scheme which would benefit their classmates, because it would be a detriment to themselves. So then F makes it so that the student who would be at a disadvantage due to the new marking scheme could select to use the old marking scheme. Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, that clarifies things. Thank you.
Do you think that there should be clarifying language to make that clear?
Possibly. 3F might be better worded. It was just took me a while to get through it, but it makes sense now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on. Does anyone have any comments on policy 70, which is carbon neutral investing? Steph?
On. Sorry. Yeah, so I'd like to suggest that we replace the existing definition of divestment, which reads divestment, the process of selling subsidiary assets, investments, or divisions in order to maximize the value of the parent company. With the following: a divestment is the reduction of an asset or business through sale, liquidation, exchange, or closure, or any other means for financial or ethical reasons. Or yeah, so the current issue that I have with the definition provided is that it works off the assumption that the reason behind divestment is to basically maximize the value of assets, which is done occasionally, but it can also be done for ethical reasons, which I feel is part of the logic behind our particular request for divestment. It just makes it a little bit more accurate with regards to contextualizing it around like our current situation, as opposed to like a regular business.
Sure, that's a great point. I've made a note of it.
There's about 1 minute left, Megan. Are there any other comments about policy 70 before I allow you to send Megan any emails with further comments? Edward, go ahead.
Hopefully a short one. In this policy, it says in the scope it includes senators. I don't believe we have the ability to control what senators say or do. So I'm just wondering what the intent was there.
Yeah, we did have this discussion last governing year, and the reason that we're calling out senators in this policy is just to make the senators aware that this is something that Students' Council has adopted, and Students' Council, being a representative body, can help senators be informed in their decisions at Senate.
So that is all the time you have, Megan. Again, I'll invite counselors to send Megan an email if you have any other questions or comments about policy 34 and policy 70. So reviewing the agenda here, it appears that we have finished all of the reports, and we will move on to general orders, beginning with 4.1. Alternative student relief during spring term, submitted by Matthew and Catherine. You have 10 minutes for discussion. Would you like to speak to this item? Either Matthew or Catherine?
Yes, I'd like to speak to this. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, you're good to go.
Phenomenal, thank you. So I was speaking with some students about some of their concerns regarding the spring term and their sort of thoughts that we should have a reading week during it as well. And what particularly came up was the reasons why that isn't feasible, which is something that council's looked at in the past. But it was very clear to me and them that it's something that spring term really lacks, is that chance to sort of make up academic performance and catch up on courses that they rely upon sometimes in other terms. This was also something I believe that was higher outlines in the Kitchener Caucus's report from their feedback from students for this council meeting. And one idea that came up, which I've actually seen implemented in some courses on a course-by-course basis, is a week where content continues just as normal, but the instructors held off on any sorts of assessments, quizzes, midterms, or anything. So there was a week where students could just focus on content without spending each day just trying to get just enough knowledge to work on the next assignment and jump to the next if they've fallen behind, and give them a chance to catch up. So I'm curious what council's thoughts are on this, and if this is something feasible for us to look at in terms of advocacy in lieu of the reading week in spring term, which is something we previously looked at and decided was not feasible.
Does Catherine want to speak to this at all before we begin discussion?
Yeah, just quickly, I want to address a couple of the common concerns that have come up when we've asked some constituents about their opinions on this. And a common concern is just that it will create a couple of denser, longer assignments. But I have a couple of courses this term that have done this in terms of having a week where they just take a break from the regular assignments. And what usually happens is that there is almost always some section of a course which is either very related to the next or prior week's material, which means that they can combine easily into an assignment, or it's something that they have less of a focus on testing, or usually they won't even ask about on the midterm, or something that's more computational instead of conceptual, and that kind of stuff that lends itself really well to just being merged into with maybe one question or being part of a question of a future assignment kind of deal. So I've had a couple of really nice weeks where I can focus on catching up with a course's material instead of just trying to figure out how to do an assignment.
Thank you, Matthew and Catherine. So I've started the timer for a 10-minute discussion with council. If you would like to be added to the speaking list to speak to alternative student relief during the spring term, please put a 1 in our meeting chat, and that'll add you to the speaking list. I'll begin with Cannon.
So I have concerns regarding this because, like, this term with my co-op, I'm working with a professor to deliver content and mark assignments and stuff. So because this term started kind of a bit later than it usually does, so they had one less week to do their assignments. So instead of reducing the number of assignments, the prof put an assignment in the same week as a midterm. So I have concerns like this could mean that there would be weeks where we'll have way more, like probably 6 or 7 assignments or a midterm and an assignment for the same course. And that's way more pressure than having just one free week of everything. And secondly, I'm not sure if Megan can correct me on this or not, but the way profs assess the students is up to them under academic freedom. So I'm not sure if that's something we can implement anyways.
Megan, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, so Canada is correct. It does fall under academic freedom, but I'm not personally familiar with the nuance of what can be required under university policy. So university policy essentially requires that instructors don't make assessments due during reading breaks. So it is potentially possible to make it so that you can't make assessments due during a I don't know what you would call it, during such a spring term break while still having classes. I'm just presently trying to find the relevant policy, and then I might chime in a little later.
Thank you, Megan. Catherine, you had a direct response to Cannon?
Yeah, in terms of implementation, my familiarity with it in the courses that I've seen it happen in is, for instance, in my linear algebra course, rather than, you know, you're saying when it might be that they're forced to have assignments and a midterm on the same week. We actually had a midterm, and then the week after, they gave us a lighter assignment, and then the week after that, there was no assignment at all. So it seems very possible, and this has happened in multiple of my other courses. And I just figure that it shouldn't be impossible to combine some sort of assessment thing. And I'm not understanding quite why it would so happen that the same material needs to be tested in the same week in 2 different assessments.
Cannon, would you like to directly respond, and then Carl?
Catherine, so like while you talk about the knowledge courses, I'm not sure who your prof is or how they're doing your assessments, but like in a lot of courses that you have weekly assessments, so it's not really possible. Like for your course, I'm assuming you don't have weekly assessments, so it's way easy to profs like move things around a bit, in my opinion. But for a lot of CS courses where you have weekly assessments where they assess you on certain topics every week, I don't think it's possible because like the course I'm teaching, like all the topics are kind of different from each other. So like there's not a possible way to combine them at all.
So Catherine, direct response, and then I'll cut it off there, and then we'll go to Carl.
My linear algebra course, we do have weekly assignments, except for that 1 week where they decided to change that. They made that change in the middle of the course. They didn't have that set out to happen at the beginning of the course. And in my other courses, I have weekly assessments as well as longer written assignments, which are not weekly. So just giving context for that. So both of them I have seen allow the flexibility to allow this sort of break, or at least with my professors.
Thank you, Catherine. We'll move on to Carl.
I just don't think that this idea is like feasible because like already, so like in the fall term, I had 2 courses that one of the courses had an assignment that was due the night before the midterm, and another course had 2 assignments that was due right after, like the night right after the midterm, and that was already with a reading week and everything a week completely off. So I just think like if we have this like alternative relief, then it's gonna create more assignments. So like I might have like 3 assignments due the night before the midterm, creating really additional stress that I feel could be more evenly distributed throughout the entire course of the term instead.
Thank you, Carl. I'll take Nick and then Edward.
All right, so a couple things that I'm concerned about with this. So number one, if you were, okay, because we've all experienced reading week, right? We all know that like before reading week and after reading week are really dense, right? You got a lot of midterms there, a lot of assignments, and then you have reading week where like, well, obviously nothing happens, right? And that's something I'm kind of concerned about because I feel like if this pseudo reading week, I suppose, is implemented, then I feel like that is going to happen, right? There's going to be like a lot of assignments that are condensed together. And I realize that maybe like some assignments could be combined to create just one instead of having 2, or maybe like a midterm and like you could take away an assignment, but that doesn't really always work for every class, right? There are some classes obviously that have like extremely a large amount of stuff to learn, right? And maybe 2 assignments can't really be combined because it'll be like very big, and it'll provide it'll cause the students to do more work and become more stressed. That's just the way I see it personally. I have a feeling that implementing this suddenly in the spring session when it's not supposed to like normally be in there, then I feel like it might cause more problems than fix. That's just my opinion though. So thank you.
Edward, you retract your time?
Yep, I don't need to say anything.
Great. So we'll take Rebecca, Vincent, and then I'll take 2 more people for the speaking list.
I was just wondering what exactly makes spring term like different than fall and winter, that there hasn't been a reading week so far, because I agree with, I think it was Nick who mentioned that the week before and the week after reading week are super dense, but I'm just wondering why, like, what rationale is there that hasn't been applied to the spring term?
It appears Delaney would like to directly respond to that. So Delaney, go ahead.
For sure. I'll try to keep it quick. I think that what they did with this spring term is that total length-wise with a reading week in there is a bit shorter overall already, so that we can have the 2 weeks off at the end of the term. So it's sort of a little bit more rushed. It gives students 2 weeks off at the end and also allows the faculty and staff to have that vacation before, or like time to prep before the fall term starts. So I think that's why it was never implemented before. And usually there's always a smaller amount of students on term during the spring term. And the students who are on term sort of just preferred to get the extra time off at the end than to have it in the middle. That's why I don't think it was ever brought up before.
Thank you.
Stephanie would also like to add that it allows international students to go home as well. So that's from the chat. Vincent, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I would just say about the concerns. Some people said that this could cause instructors to, cram multiple assignments together. One thing I once experienced in a course, Now, the professor didn't do this on purpose. Basically, the TAs ran out of marking times on their contracts. So what happened is like the last few assignments at the end of the term, none of them were marked because the TAs had run out of marking time on their contracts, so they couldn't mark assignments anymore. So what this did was it meant that the assignments we were able to just do at our own pace, and we were still able to learn the content and get practice with this content. I think it would be in the spirit of this policy or this proposed policy to say that, you know, instructors can have assignments that aren't marked during that time, so that students can still learn that content and get practice with that content, but have a bit of a break if, you know, maybe they need to put it off for a week while they catch up on their stuff. I think that would address a lot of the concerns that people brought up about having to cram assignments. You could just have one assignment not be marked.
Thank you everyone for your comments and being part of this discussion. It is 10 minutes, so we will be moving on to our next general order. I'll say that Megan and I just had a quick discussion, taking into account all of your comments. Megan will be speaking with David Davidi, and I will be having a conversation with the undergraduate Senate caucus at our July touch base. So I'll be able to come to the next council meeting with maybe some more information about next steps for council moving forward. Megan, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
That's all. Before we move on, I'd just like to ask for like a 5 or 10 minute recess.
Yes. So I will say, so it is a 10-minute recess. We can take that now. So everyone please come back at 12:45 and we will begin again. Thank you, Cannon, for noticing that. 12:46, you can come back. Okay, so we have about 15 more seconds before we're going to start up again. So everybody, I know I can't see you, but everybody please start coming back to your computers. According to my watch, it is exactly 12:46. I'll give counselors about 30 more seconds to come back and join us. I'm going to put in the chat, it says here, just thumbs up so then I can make sure that we have quorum. So, yep, thank you everyone.
Schedule hanging out then.
All right, everyone. So it looks like we're good to move on to item 4.2 of the agenda, having most counselors back in the room. So the next item on the agenda is Amendment to Procedure 10, submitted by Vice President Education Town. Megan, would you like to speak to this before we bring it to vote?
Sure. Can I get a seconder?
Good point, Megan. Can I get a seconder? It looks like Cannon seconds.
Great. So in consultation with both the Committee of Presidents and the Undergraduate Senate Caucus, I'm moving these changes to EAC. So essentially, I am removing the seat of the president for everyone who has a vice president academic or education on the committee already, and then just adding the optometry students or pharmacy students. I can't quite remember who was missing from the affiliated and federated colleges and satellite campuses. So for all of the presidents this term, if you would like to continue to sit on the committee, I'm going to send out an email and they will be permitted to do so in a non-voting capacity. And the same thing essentially applies all the time. If anyone ever wants to sit on the committee in a non-voting capacity, they're able to. But based on my discussions with the presidents, most of them don't have time and are able to delegate this responsibility to their VPs.
Thank you, Megan. Are there any questions or comments before I bring this motion to a vote? Cannon, go ahead.
Megan, I saw a change made, like we're including all commissioners instead of just commissioners under VP Ed going forward. From what I remember from last year, we always have issues of quorum in this committee because it's a huge committee and people usually don't show up.
Sorry, just was busy almost falling off my chair.
Do you want me to repeat it?
Nope, I heard you. Yeah, so the quorum of the committee was changed last year to be 6 members, at least 3 of which must not be the Vice President Education and AVPs.
Thank you, Megan. Are there any additional questions or comments before we bring this to a vote? Okay. Seeing none. Be it resolved that Procedure 10, Committees of Student Council, is amended as attached in Appendix D. I have added this to the General Council teams, and just as a reminder, if you are in favor, you'll thumbs up. If you are against, you will wow react. If you are in abstention, you will sad face, and if you would like your vote noted, please reply to the message in the chat saying noted and then noting your vote. Thank you everyone for voting in the general chat. The motion passes. So be it resolved, the procedure 10, committees to student council is now amended as attached. Sad face is abstention, for those in the chat who are wondering. Just as a note, Matthew is noted in abstention. Thank you, Megan. Now that we have passed this motion, I will now move on to new business. Any counselor may raise any item of concern during new business by proposing a motion or topic of discussion. A 2/3 majority vote is required for consideration of the item to proceed. Are there any counselors who would like to bring up any items in new business? John, go ahead.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Okay, and I've realized it's not my computer playing the fool. It's Microsoft Teams. Why I hate Microsoft Teams. Abby, yes, we do have a new business item. I've typed it into the live meeting notes. If everyone can just head over there and scroll down to new business. Here it is. Election of councillors to vacant committee seats. Would you like me to read out the motion, Abby?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right, so 5.1, election of councillors to vacant committee seats. Whereas one councillor seat on each of the elections and referenda committee and policies and procedures committee has been vacated during the course of this meeting, then be it resolved blank is elected to fill the vacant councillor seat on the elections referenda committee, and be it further resolved blank is elected to fill the vacant councillor seat on the policies and procedures committee. There should not be another and. I still need a seconder, and then we need to vote to add this to the agenda.
I'll second, John. So John, I will add to the general council teams. Be resolved, council will discuss election of councillors to vacant seats in new business. So I'll be adding this to the general council teams. Be resolved, council will discuss election of councillors to vacant seats in new business. Please go over there. Again, just as a reminder, thumbs up is in favor, sad face is abstain, and wow react is against. So I have a 2/3 majority, so we'll be adding election of councillors to vacant seats to new business, and we'll begin elections similar to the elections that took place at the, I believe, May meeting. So as these are counselor seats, they are filled by elected members of council. So if any counselors at this time would like to put their name forward for the following committees. So we'll begin with elections and referenda committee. Please put your name in the chat if you wish to put yourself forward, or if you wish to nominate another counselor. And then after I have a list of people who are interested in filling the seat, I'll allow you 30 seconds to present why you should be on this committee, and then we will vote in the general council teams. So again, this is for the elections and referendum committee. If you would like to nominate yourself or another counselor, please type their name in the chat. I'll remind counselors again that you cannot be running in an election if you are on the elections and referenda committee.
Abby, Ina has a point of information.
Go ahead, Ina.
Abby, could you remind people or incoming, like what is the role of a policy and procedure committee as well as election referendum committee, just so everybody knows what they're or potentially signing up for?
Sure. I'll actually I'll go back to the original the summaries that I gave at the May meeting. So the Elections and Referenda Committee, through the Chief Returning Officer of the Federation of Students, is responsible for oversight and the fair and impartial execution of all elections, by-elections, and referenda administered by the Federation of Students. Again, I'm asking for any counselor to come forward, nominating themselves or another counselor. Megan, you're putting yourself forward for ERC. And Chanel. Thank you, Megan. So far we have Chanel. I'll give counselors about 10 more seconds to just nominate yourself or others. All right, so Chanel, would you like to speak?
I have a question. You mentioned that if we're on the committee, we cannot run for election. So would it be the four main, like the WUSA elections, or just anything under WUSA? So like the Arts Union and other ones.
So yeah, that would be like the general election. So councillor, Senate, and executive seats, and then by-election, which will be taking place in September. So that would be for councillor seats or senator seats. I believe that's all.
Oh.
So it wouldn't stop you from running for the Arts Student Union, for example.
Can I withdraw? I'm sorry.
Yep, no problem. John, if I don't have anyone or okay, Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll do it.
You'll sit on ERC?
Yeah, if no counselor is able to.
Okay. Thank you, Megan. And seeing no one else come forward, I will just post the motion into the chat to elect Megan to the seat. I believe, Megan, if you're acclaimed, I just need confirmation from council that they're okay with you being in the seat, correct?
Yeah, so what I would do is I would deal with PPC now, and then altogether we can move to amend the motion to include my name and whoever's going to sit on PPC. And then once we've done that, we can vote on the motion.
Great, sounds good. Now I'll move on to the Policies and Procedures Committee. So as requested by the president of MathSoc, I will read just a brief summary of the Policies and Procedures Committee, and then again, I will open it up for self-nominations or nominating other counselors. The Policies and Procedures Committee ensures that the policies and procedures of the corporation are consistent with the bylaws, reviews student counselors' policy proposals with the assistance of the Research and Policy Officer, conducts research to develop and draft policies, proposes amendments, renewals, and newly developed policies and procedures to council, ensures written procedure commonly utilized by the corporation is proposed as written procedure, and ensures the policies and procedures manuals are updated and complete. The committee works under close advisement with legal counsel, staff support, and other parties as appropriate. Again, I open it up for nominations for the vacant counselor seat on the Policies and Procedures Committee. A reminder, counselors, if you would like to be nominated for the counselor seat on the Policies and Procedures Committee, please type your name in the meeting chat. John, I'm not sure if Angela can be considered if she's just here until the by-election. I mean, I guess she could fill the seat until then, but then we'd have to elect a new counselor in at the September meeting. I mean, I'm happy to take Angela as a nomination, just understanding that we may have to come back in the fall term and run this election again. Okay, so just note from John, and I guess I back him. I really do encourage anyone who is not currently on a committee to volunteer their time to this committee. And it looks like Angela, there's a few people who would be for Angela holding the seat on this committee. So I will ask Angela if she accepts this nomination, which it appears she does. So I will, again, put another call out, last call for any nominations, and then I'll ask Angela if she would like to speak to council. Not seeing anyone come up in the chat. Angela, is there anything that you would like to say in support of your nomination to the Policies and Procedures Committee?
Not quite, to be honest, but I guess I'd be excited to join just to learn more about how policies are I guess like set up or continually updated, and it's an endeavor I'd be interested in going on, and thank you for the nomination.
Thank you, Angela. So Megan, can you just quickly remind me. My next move, I filled in the blanks in the be it resolved statements. And then I think we're just going to bring it to a vote to confirm the acclaimed seats. Megan, would you like to speak?
Mm-hmm. So I move to amend the motion to include my name in the first blank and Angela's name in the second blank.
And I'll second. So the statements now read, be it resolved that Megan Town is elected to fill the vacant councillor seat on the Elections and Referenda Committee, and be it further resolved that Angela Wang Lin is elected to fill the vacant councillor seat on the Policies and Procedures Committee. Reminder to councillors that this is over in the general council chat. And when you're voting, you will vote thumbs up in favor, sad face for abstention, and a wow react for against. And if you would like your vote noted, please reply to the statement saying noted and then state your vote.
Abby, Jason has a point of order.
Pardon? Pardon me?
Jason.
Sure, go ahead, Jason.
Just a correction on the motion. The seat on ERC is actually not a councillor seat. It is, I think technically you could say it's an at-large seat, since like it's just there's seats for members and then a requirement that a certain number be at large.
Thank you, Jason. I'll make that change. So the statement now reads, be it resolved that Megan Town is elected to fill the vacant seat on the Elections and Referenda Committee, and be it further resolved that Angela Wang Lin is elected to fill the vacant councillor seat on the Policies and Procedures Committee. Thank you, Jason. So a reminder to all councillors that we are voting in the general council teams. So if you are voting thumbs up in favor, sad face, abstention, wow react is against. And if you would like your vote noted, you can reply to the statement in Teams saying noted and then stating your vote. Thank you, everyone. Motion passes with Angela noted an abstention. I will then, I guess, open it up again for any new business. And I believe, Ina, you had, oh man, I can't find it in the chat right now. You had a new topic for discussion. So I'll allow you to speak.
Thank you, Abby. So I want, I don't have an actual note written up, but the idea is to recommend the board of directors, or sorry, let me rephrase this. So due to just the recent events, climate going on around the university, and then I know that the university policy 33 on sexual assault at 42. Policy 42, is it 33? No, okay, 42, and it's going to be under review. So I just wanted, the topics we're discussing is just about what should we be adding, like what is the process going to be like for the 42, how and what should we be considering to add to that policy. Additionally, and can the board of directors for WUSA's board of directors write a code of conduct, or for student volunteers under WUSA about such behaviors and consequences? It's a big mess up. I'm so sorry.
I'm going to allow Megan to respond, but I will also jump in and say that we are currently working on a organization-wide code of conduct, but Megan can speak more to this too. So go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, I would say, Ina, that this would not actually fall under the purview of the board of directors. Like Abby said, we are going to be working on an organization wide code of conduct. So we're discussing the legal implications of that, and tentatively I'll be the one drafting that code of conduct for WUSA. For the university review of policy 42, that process is scheduled to start in about the next year. And so presently right now, there isn't formal mechanisms for feedback. So if you do have feedback or would be interested in providing feedback in the future, you can either email us, your executive, or you can email Amanda Cook, who is the university director of sexual violence prevention and response. And WUSA is typically involved in all university policy reviews. In particular, we will certainly be involved with this one. So keeping an eye out in the coming months to a year for opportunities to be involved in that consultation would be the way to go.
So, I'll allow you to directly respond, but I'll also say that I'm working pretty closely with Amanda and Megan from the Sexual Violence Response Office. And I can also, if you would like your feedback kept anonymous, I would also take that feedback to Amanda too.
Okay, thank you, Abby, and thank you, Megan, for the explanation. Yeah, I didn't really know what the exact procedure would be, so it was just something that I thought could share with the group.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. To share with, if anybody wants to talk about it more, this could be an opportunity. However, with your clarification, I think this could be for a future August meeting when everybody had the chance to read through the two policies.
Yeah, thank you, Ina. And John, to your point, I was just trying to give Ina some background information before we brought this to a discussion, to say that this is something we're currently working on. But if council would like to continue this discussion, yes, we can bring it to a vote. But my understanding is Ina has said that we would like to move it to another meeting, so I don't think that there's anything to bring to the floor to discuss unless another councillor wants to open it up for discussion. So, hearing no one bringing up any motion for further discussion on policy 42 and 33, I'll ask again if there are any items that councillors would like to bring up in new business. Hearing none, we'll move on to announcements. So any councillor may make an announcement not exceeding 1 minute in duration, which may be followed by up to 2 minutes of follow-up questions. No motions may be introduced from an announcement. So are there any councillors who would like to make an announcement at this time? Ina, go ahead.
Yeah, just once again, a quick shout out to Matthew Switch for his presidency, and as well as the general meeting, MATSOC general meeting. Everybody's welcome to join. However, speaking rights and voting rights would be reserved to mass students only. But yeah, feel free to join. Information on Facebook and any other social media platform. Cool, thanks.
Thank you, Ina. Last call for any announcements from counselors.
Abby, just a reminder, the next meeting is August 9th at 10:30 a.m.
Thank you, John. I was going to get to that. I'll repeat it one more time. The next regular meeting of council is scheduled for August 9th, 10:30 a.m. On Microsoft Teams. And as a reminder from a previous conversation we've had at council, I will be adding the adjournment time, the expected adjournment time to the agenda and to the calendar invite. Hearing no more announcements, I move that we adjourn this meeting at 1:18 p.m. So be it resolved, the speaker adjourns the meeting at 1:18. Do I need a seconder for that?
No.
No? I think I can just leave now, so that's pretty exciting. Thank you everyone for joining us today. That was very short and sweet, and I look forward to seeing everyone in August. I'll be sending a follow-up email. This afternoon with Nada's report, and I look forward to seeing everyone in August. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one.
Cool.
Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Unknown participant
Bye,
is
everyone.
now exiting.
I can't believe that Abby talked so much in this meeting. All the time I just saw her screen lighting up.
I know, I just have so much to say. I guess they call me the speaker for a reason. It's a good joke. I'm really proud of that one.
I love Connor's.
I have a conspiracy theory.
Thanks, Joseph.
Wait, what did...
He said if he wasn't muted, I would have heard a chuckle, which makes me happy.
Like what?
Anyways, take care, guys. See you next month.